You know, it's bad enough these days that it's really difficult for people to buy a home considering where prices and interest rates are at. I just did a video the other day talking about how the American dream is basically dead unless you're earning a very high income or you're willing to reframe what your expectations around what the American dream actually is or means to you. But there are some even bigger problems when it comes to looking at listings because pretty much all the listings across the world right now, not just here in the United States, but worldwide, are being manipulated. And they're being manipulated in a way to make buyers believe that it's a brand new listing. Like, hey, this house just came on the market. Let's take a look at it. You know, here's a new listing. When in reality, many of these homes have been on the market for years and years at a time. I have highlighted this scenario in several of my videos in the past, so much so that a few of you guys who watch my videos actually reached out to me and shared some local examples. I have some from a real estate agent up in northern Florida, even somebody who lives in Europe and tracks the Dutch housing market send me examples of what's happening over there. So this is a worldwide problem right now. And basically, sellers and real estate agents and local MLSs are all sort of conspiring to make it look like there's a bunch of brand new listings out there, when in reality, it's all a big lie. And also, when you're looking to buy a house, there's a few main questions that you want to ask yourself. Is what is the price? How long has it been on the market? And also, what did the owners pay for the property? And the more that this data manipulation becomes a thing and becomes prevalent throughout MLSs across the world, it's going to be harder and harder to answer those questions and harder to determine whether you're paying a fair price for the property or not. And I'm going to show you guys several examples here and show you just how long these listings have been listed for and give you straight up proof that this is actually manipulation that's taking place on purpose from MLS systems. Okay, so let's take a look at this very first example that was sent to me here. This is a property in Inlet Beach, Florida, which is part of the Panhandle, very luxurious area of Florida, by the way. And you can see on the Zillow listing that this house looks like it's only been available for 10 days and it's got 8 saves and 310 views. Wow, must be a hot listing, right? Not really. Let's take a look at the history. So the last time this property was sold was back in 2021 for $350,000. So most likely they bought this piece of land, there was no house, and then they decided to build a house here. And then they actually listed it for sale at the end of 2022 for $3.8 million. So we're now in the middle of 2025. So that was 2.5 years ago, guys. 2.5 years ago, this house was listed. And then just 6 months later, you can see here, the listing was removed. And then once again, listed for sale for $3.8 million. Same thing again. And listing removed. And then listed for sale again. You see the common pattern here is they put the property on the market, they take it down. Because depending on the local MLS rules, which I'll get into with you later, you can put a listing up and take it down, and it can appear like a new listing within a matter of minutes or just a day. It's very quick. So let's take a look at an even more egregious example of a house being listed for sale even longer. This was sent to me by the same real estate agent up in the Panhandle of Florida. Take a look at this place, okay? Right now it's listed for $4.94 million. 218 days on Zillow, so I'm guessing they're probably getting pretty close to removing it from the market and putting it back up again. And let's take a look at the property's history. Now, luckily, Zillow is still showing the property's history because I'm seeing more and more listings where they actually are able to wipe this away. Either the property owner, the real estate agent, or the MLS is able to wipe away this information, and sometimes you don't have this elaborate history available, but I always encourage you to check this out. If you're looking on Zillow, it's under market value. If you're looking on Redfin, I think it's under property details, things like that. This was something that was pointed out to me that on the local MLS and on Zillow, it's showing here like, hey, this house has only been available for 218 days. But we have two different terms in the MLS. It's called days on market, which is abbreviate with DOM, and then this continuous days on the market, which is CDOM, okay? So this property has been continuously on the market essentially since June of 2019. They originally listed for 4.8 million. This was a pre-pandemic listing, and this house has never sold. As you can see, going through the listing history here is just one thing after another. Listing removed, listed for sale, price change, listing removed again, price change, price change, price change. And it just keeps going and going and going. And they actually got it under pending sale back in March of this year. Looks like that didn't work out, and now it's back on the market again. So this house has literally been listed for sale for 6 years. But somehow Zillow reports it as it's only 218 days old. And an unsuspecting buyer who's looking to buy a house right now and wasn't looking 6 years ago might think, well, yeah, the listing's a little bit stale, but it's not that old. And how many buyers are actually looking through the property history? I don't know, but everybody should be doing this. It's not hard to do, guys. Now, some of the problem is, depending on the state that you live in, a lot of this history is not available. Like I remember when I was in Texas, for example, you couldn't see the listing history on any of the homes. I think it was the same thing in New Mexico also. So certain states don't even allow you to see the property's history like this, regardless of the MLS rules, which makes it even more difficult as a buyer to determine, is this property listed for a fair price? Because for all you know, they could be asking way too much and you don't see the history. You don't see what they purchased this property for. So that's why this becomes a real problem. Let me show you an example here in Miami that I have shown numerous times in my videos. I have walked past this house that I'm showing you guys right here at least probably a dozen times since I've been doing the outdoor walk and talk videos, because I rotate the neighborhoods and streets and things I walk through. And every single time I walk past this house, it still has the for sale and the for rent sign in front of it. And I started doing the walk and talk videos in like June of 2022. So yet another listing that's been available for the past 3 years, essentially. So when you look at the listing on Zillow, it's telling you, yeah, it's only been available for 175 days, which is a complete lie, because when we go to the property's history, we can see what's really going on. They bought this house back in 2021 for $1.9 million, then was listed for rent about a year later for 22 grand, no takers by the way, and they kept lowering that all the way down to $17,000, could not get it rented. And it was also listed for sale back in 2023 for 2.89 million, and listing was removed, surprise, surprise, listed for sale again, listing removed again, and then listed for sale again as recently as December of 2024. These are manipulation tactics to make people new to the area, someone just driving through the neighborhood for the first time, browsing online, to believe that these are brand new listings. And I want to show you guys that this is actually being done on purpose, because when you go to a support page of one of these MLS websites here, I'm going to show you guys verbatim here that this is actually being done to make it look like a fresh listing. They actually say this on the support page here. Let's take a look at what this says. When a listing has been on the market for some time, it's possible to cancel the listing and submit a new listing. In most cases, this will reset the days on the market on the MLS and also give you a new MLS listing number. Cumulative days on the market is always reset unless a required number of days has passed. Many websites use the MLS number to determine how fresh a listing is, and the websites give priority to the newest listings. Some websites may display a days on market as well, but there is not a uniform approach that all websites use in calculating days on the market. So here's what you can do. You can cancel your listing by submitting an MLS listing change to update the status to canceled. And once we confirm the change has been completed, you can go back to your old MLS listing and there will be a link to copy over the information to a new MLS listing. The downside to submitting a new MLS listing is that you have to pay the listing fee again. The upside is that you get a new MLS listing number, and depending on the MLS, the days on the market will be reset. We often work with home flippers that will cancel and relist anytime a listing gets a bit old. The most effective way to get buyers' attention is coupling the new listing with a drop in price. Read that sentence again. The most effective way to get buyers' attention is coupling the new listing with a drop in price. This is the formula that every single one of these listings I just showed you is using. They take it off the market, they put it back up at a reduced price, and it looks like a new listing at a lower price, and the algorithms on Zillow and Redfin and Trulia and all these websites, Realtor.com, bump it up and say, hey, here's a new listing for you. And you can see here on this support page, they show a bunch of different MLSs throughout the country and their policies on how long it takes for something to actually show up as a new listing, okay? Like, take a look at this. This is the Bay Area MLS right here. Days on the market, it's 11 days. It says that the listing cannot be immediately relisted, but must wait 11 days to relist. And if it's been off the market for more than 90 days, then the continuous days on the market goes away. Okay, so it's not going to show that, yeah, this property's been listed, on and off for the past 4 years. It's not going to show that it's been continually on the market. It's going to show up as a fresh listing if you wait more than 90 days, and that's it. And if you only have to wait 11 days if you want it to just show up as, a new listing right off the bat, and it just shows 0 days on the market, brand new listing. If we go to Miami, I saw they have Miami on this list here. Miami MLS, days on the market, as soon as you put up a new listing, you take it off today and you put it up tomorrow or just a few hours later, shows up days on the market immediately. Okay, brand new listing. You don't have any waiting period to take down a listing and relist it. It can be the next day and all of a sudden you got yourself a brand new listing. But if you want to have the continuous days on the market disappear, then it needs to be off the market for 120 days. And you can see all of these different MLSs have different policies to try and convince people to buy homes. They're resorting to this because the housing market is slow, guys. This is no surprise. We are experiencing the slowest housing market that we have in the past 30 years. And 30 years ago, there was far less people in the United States to even buy homes. So this is bad. People are desperate for business. They're doing whatever they can to kind of sucker people in and, convince you that, oh, this is the one. Here's the new listing. This is a great deal. 7% interest rate, not bad. Now, I have one of my other viewers that is in the Dutch market that sent me a couple of examples over there of them doing the same exact thing. Now, obviously, I don't read Dutch and I don't understand everything this says, but they tell you here what is going on. This property was quietly relisted 3 times with a hidden $50,000 euro price reduction, then $30,000 for a total of $80,000 in price reduction. True time on the market is 6 months, but back in January, it looks like a brand new listing because you can see going back to July of 2024, the price history of this house was originally $475, then down to $425, $395, and fast forward to today, the house is still available. And this is not the United States. This is happening somewhere in Europe. Here's another example right here. This home was listed back in July of 2024 for 850,000 euros and then taken off the market and then relisted back in January for 790,000 euros. Looks like a brand new listing though. And here's one more example. This place was quietly relisted 5 times with multiple price reductions with a total of 135,000 euro price reduction. True time on the market is 1 year and 2 months. Okay, you can see the history goes all the way back to November of 2023. And listen, I'm not saying that you're not allowed to reduce the price as a seller of the property or the real estate agent to try to get it sold. That's fine. But trying to manipulate the appearance of the listing and trick people into thinking that it's a brand new listing and they haven't been trying to sell it for a long time and they haven't had multiple offers in the past that fell through and the home went pending a bunch of times and for whatever reason it couldn't sell, that stuff's not being disclosed. That's deceptive sales practices. That's like going to buy a car and getting the Carfax report and having all of the Carfax data about the history of the car, how many accidents it's been in, how many miles it has on it, how many owners it's had, having all that stuff being fake. But instead you're buying a house where the price is, 10 times that of a car, if not more, and you are being tricked into buying something you're not really sure what's the history of. Yeah, sure, you're going to do your inspection and your due diligence, things like that on the house to find out any potential problems, hopefully, and figure out what's going on with the property, but you don't know the history. And if you're not willing to dig and your real estate agent doesn't dig because their motivation is to sell you the house, in reality, they don't really care if you do the digging or not. That's your responsibility. So they're not going to talk you out of buying a house you're interested in. So it's on you. You as the buyer have to do this due diligence. You as the buyer have to do the research to see how long has this property been on the market? Is the price they're asking fair? How much have they lowered the price since they bought it? What did they pay for it? And let me tell you, if you're in a market where you can't get this information, it's not public, like in Texas or New Mexico, places like that, ask your real estate agent. Force them to give you the report. Tell them to do the digging on the MLS or bring up the tax roll so at least you know how many times the property has been listed and for how much and how big the price reductions have been. And also, you know how much the person who owns it now paid for the property to give you a more realistic picture of what you should be paying. Now, I'm not saying that you're going to be offering them the price that they paid 10 years ago. In some cases, like Barbara Corcoran, you might be doing that. But in a lot of cases, in a lot of real estate, the prices have gone up and real estate has appreciated over the past 10 years. So I'm not saying you're going to pay the same price that they paid, but it allows you to calculate what might be the real value of this property, at least to you, right? And if you don't have that information, then you're kind of shooting in the dark as a buyer. You're stuck with whatever the comps have sold for in the neighborhood, which are valid and relevant pieces of information that you need to make an educated guess on what you should offer for the property. But seeing that actual house's history is going to be extremely helpful as well. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know it's something a little bit different, and I figured this one would just be easier to do from my office here instead of trying to walk around and talk and show you guys all this information. So do your digging, guys. If you're going to buy a house, do your digging. And don't forget, if you need a real estate agent, whether you're a buyer or a seller, I have a link for that down in the description below. You can sign up and get an agent 100% free. It doesn't cost you anything, and it helps the channel. So if you enjoyed this video, make sure you subscribe to the channel. And if you don't want to wait for my next video to come out, check out this one on the screen right over here, and I'll see you in the next one.